Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you an attempt at figuring out how to make Blood Legion better. Not in the sense of when I theory craft, like the things that a detachment needs, but the way that it might operate. Coming to review it a bit more, I think it might have the same solution as the Space Wolves Grotmis detachment. Champions of Fenris. Well, yeah, we'll say that's the one. Um, but seriously though, I was looking at Blood Legion, and it has a few things that have been glossed over. Admittedly, probably for good reason, but I think if you take this perspective, you might have better results depending on if you want to do it, right? That's the next step. I don't know too many people that want to do this with Khorne Demons, but I'll throw it out there just in case. I think this is to an attempt to give players a way that demon players traditionally haven't done. Looking at the Zinch detachment, yeah, Zinch isn't known for like melee and big monsters and things, but I think that's probably the angle that will work best for you. And then looking at Khorne, I think we have the inverse now. I think traditionally, demons overall, well, for this edition, haven't spammed out a bunch of tiny battle line. We saw one list do fairly well at, I was WDC or WCW? I can't remember right now. One of the big events that was battle line spam for Demonic Incursion and did fairly well. So I think Blood Legion might be coming off the back of that, especially when we take into account what we have for the detachment rule. With Murder Call, you have a 6-inch surge move if your opponent that isn't aircraft ends a normal or advanced move. I'm sorry, a D6 surge move if your opponent makes a normal or advanced move and isn't aircraft within 6 inches of you, right? And first, the first stupid, like, oh, I just won't ever move? Like that clearly didn't work as counterplay. So then people were like, all right, well, I'll just throw out this thing, wait for you to surge into this thing, and then I'll charge that thing. Which, fine, but what if it's a unit I don't care about and I've tied you up more? For instance, if this were my Hormagaunts or my Gargoyles, in something like Unending Swarm. I know we don't play that anymore, but genuinely from what they do anyway, right? Surge move to surge move. I don't care if you charge my battle line, right? Like, I don't care. They're disposable, they're there for that purpose, right? I love them to death, but for my game plan, please continue to tie yourself up more into my battle line. Then going on to Blood Tainted, another one that I don't think anybody's addressed. Like, I don't know if people know that this is a part of this detachment at this point. At the end of the phase in which a Khorne unit from your army destroyed an enemy unit that was within range of an objective marker at the start of the phase, if your unit is higher level of control, sticky, right? We know how that works. But you get free sticky if you destroy a unit on an objective marker with your Khorne unit. And the easiest way to have higher OC than your opponent is by throwing battle line on a point, right? So if we throw a bunch of battle line into the list that now is tying you up for essentially free. If you don't want to come within 6 inches of the deep striking battle line, fine, be my guest, and then I just throw them further and further into you. And if something dies on an objective while my battle line is beating you over the head, guess what? I sticky, and now I go further into you. This also leads to it, or comes from a personal approach, I guess. Um, a lot of players stop in the middle, and I'm not going to say that my shit is more effective or, unique or anything like that. But as a Tyranids player, I was talking about this from a Crusher Stampede aspect, in which you stop at the middle and go, all right, we'll play the mid board. And most people tell you that's all you really need to focus on. But if you just keep pushing with some shit that you're okay with pushing with for one reason or another, then your opponent is still in their deployment zone, like they're facing Skitarii Hunter cohort, Space Wolves, Wolf Jail, right? Things like that. And I have all the OC, and I can just keep pushing. Yeah, fine by me. Then the enhancements. This one did throw me a bit for a loop with Slaughterthirst, into which on non-monsters, well, affects non-monsters, you can have a 6-inch aura of Lance. And with the Bloodmaster, you get +1 to wound, but you can also consolidate up to 6 inches instead of 3. So going back to the consolidate to Blood Tainted, I think we're looking at needing Battle Line. But after you have your 30 blood letters that are tied to 3 Bloodmasters, you probably want some more ways to get +1 to wound. There goes Slaughterthirst. And that's just hint number 1, I guess. Number 2, with Brazen Maw, add 2 to the charge rolls made for the bear's unit. Now, again, you can put this on whatever the fuck you want, but I think all of us would like to take an inch and then take a mile. So, if it is going onto a unit that has Instrument of Chaos, you have +3 to your charge. So that's 6-inch charges with 9-inch deep striking units. Now, I will say, Blood Crushers also have the Instrument of Chaos, if I remember correctly. So, that's not the hardest thing to achieve right there. But, if I deep strike 9 and I have Brazen Maw on blood letters on a Bloodmaster with blood letters, and then consolidate, it sounds like I'm having a good time. And then the other thing that was really trying to give me trouble is the fact that Sheathed in Brass applies to models that have probably a higher than 3-up save characteristic, because in your opponent's shooting phase, you target something to give them a 3-up save characteristic. And for a lot of the demons, there's a 4-up invuln anyway, so who gives a fuck? But what if it's the little fucks? That's why I give a fuck. Alright, we take that 7-up save or a 5-up invuln, and then all of a sudden your opponent that thought that it was just going to be a AP nothing flamer, or, AP1 bolter shots to get rid of the blood letters, now they're wondering, oh, the blood letters are still in my face because they have a 3-up save. But it doesn't stop strictly at battle line, because I also think there's a bit more play with the Fleshhounds from the similar aspect. I know we all looked at the fact that, oh, all of the demon detachments have a way to go through walls now, and that helps the monsters, right? We got that part. But it also helps the beast and the mounted. Now, how much you care about that, I don't know. But there will be a time that you might, especially when Fleshhounds, if they get into position, you can target this unit with Heroic Intervention for free, for 0 CP, because technically if there's a Vectora, it can go up to 1, for 0 CP, and do it even though somebody else did it. For 7 models, just to get a block in there, that's not too bad. And if we're going back to Slaughterthirst, you got Lance in that situation. We're talking about 3 attacks with strength 5, AP 1, damage 1. Now Lance? That's not too far off from what we had with the blood letters with AP 2, damage 2. Strength is still there, but, you got an additional attack per Fleshhound. And again, you might want to make them a 3-up save every now and again. But going past that, the Ren Master on Blood Throne is probably who should be carrying Slaughterthirst, in my opinion. At the start of the fight phase, select one enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to this model until the end of the phase. Each time a friendly Khorne unit makes an attack that targets that unit, improve the strength, AP, and damage characteristic of that attack by 1. So, you could have a Bloodthirster, that hits a little bit harder. But, quite frankly, strength capping out isn't usually an issue for those units, right? For the big monsters of Khorne, you're probably not skimming out on strength, AP, maybe not even damage, right? And not the Blood Crushers really either. And that's speaking about the Blood Crushers, they have Lance on something already, so probably don't care too much about them being around Slaughterthirst either. But, you know, what would be a unit that putting this and giving them Lance would get dangerous? Yeah, probably the little guys. So if you take them up to 6-3-3 for 20 something attacks, and then give them Lance on top of that, assuming, not Bloodmaster, right? Yeah, 6-3-3 for 20 attacks with Lance? That's going to punch a lot harder than it should for only 110 points. Okay, not only 110 points, but 110 point unit shouldn't punch up as hard as 6-3-3 for 20 attacks with Lance. And that's kind of where we go with the Renmaster on Bloodthrone. And then you take into account the fact you could take a Demon Prince of Chaos, give them stealth, or back to the Bloodthirsters, into which you can give them +1 to the hit roll, so that now they are hitting onto a unit is 6-3-3 with Lance. That gets a little bit scary. You have Bloodthirster to do that. Scarbrand could add to the additional attacks characteristics for Bloodletters, Fleshhounds, right? Same thing for the Bloodthirster can apply to the Fleshhounds. Skull Cannon, this is one that I think is a nice angle, right? Because giving this Lance for 95 points isn't too bad between Biting Maw and the Attendant's Hellblades. But also, you have the Skull Cannon, which is some of the best shooting in the Demon's Codex, which is funny. D6 +2. Okay, maybe not the best. I guess I'll give Zinch that, right? But D6 +2 at 48 inches blast, hitting on 3, strength 9, AP 1, damage 2, and the bar is low for a Demon's Codex, right? That's why it's funny. But you still have something like Skulls Begets Blood for your shooting phase because this is your grenades, right? They gave you grenades. One infantry or mounted unit from your army that is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. Select one enemy unit that is not within engagement range of one or more units from your army and is within 8 inches and visible to your unit. Roll 6d6 for each 4-up that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So between Skull Cannon shooting, triggering a Battle Shock test, probably failing a Battle Shock test, hopefully failing a Battle Shock test, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Because you're still playing demons, you still have the Shadow of Chaos and things like that, so another -1, right? And then throwing a grenade, yeah, you're clearing screens left and right, especially if that fucking screen came from Bloodletters who are charging up. Sorry, that screen clearing came from Bloodletters, which are surging the fuck up that I don't really care about, but now are packing quite the punch at 5-2-2 +1 to wound and throwing a grenade for the fuck of it. And then tying you up and taking control. Then you also have the option of still including Blood Crushers with Skull Masters just for additional punch, but all things considered, I don't know how much of a punch I need when we're just inflicting mortals left and right after Skull Cannon, grenade, maybe the Blood Crusher Steel get in there too. I don't know how much you need. So, I say all this to say that instead of maybe focusing on how many Scarbrand, Bloodthirster, Demon Prince, probably with wings, do I want to fit in? What if we do the opposite, where it's how many Bloodletters and fucking Fleshhounds can get in here and then chip the fuck away at your opponent because why is 622 with Lance hitting me? Why is 522 with Lance hitting me? Why does this hurt? Right? That goes from punching the toughest vehicles on 6s to 5s And with a lot of bloodletters, I think you'll clear a lot of things. Especially when you then suddenly turn them to saving on threes. When they thought their bullshit AP was going to just put you there. So, you know, I'm not going to say that Blood Legion is the bomb.com. Oh, and then also going to the Mortals aspect, you have Gateway unto Damnation for 10 points, into which the bearer's daily demise ability inflicts mortal wounds on a 2 up and can go to D3 plus 3 if the bearer destroy one or more enemy units. So it seems like between mortal wounds from grenades, skull cannon, playing demons, uh, skull crushers, blood crushers, sorry, like yeah, I think there's definitely an angle here that could be a little bit more viable. So I'll just say, if you are a Khorne demon player, I know there's a lot of, but I play it to put my bloodthirster here and my bloodthirster here and my bloodthirster here, and then I punch them in the fucking face. I get that, but considering the other Grotmish detachments were a little bit weird, right? It might be worth looking into. Legion of Excess is looking a little bit more elite, per se. Like, there's less demonish than I thought there would be. There's more fiends and keepers of secrets. You have Plague Legion, which is surprisingly combined arms. Like, the Plague Drones are getting in there. Rodigus and Great Unclean Ones getting in there. Plague Bearers and Sloppity, or shit, is getting in there. And then Zinch is the Monster Mash? Right? Like, why not see if you can turn things on your head by doing the infantry spam thing with Khorne? So hey, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.